Hi there, and welcome. Today I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of a solution that I recently published to GitHub, which is the use of Logic Apps and other cloud-native technologies in Azure to track long-term statistics of a GitHub repository. So by default, GitHub only tracks 14 days worth of traffic and clone statistics. I personally wanted to track that longer, and I know others do as well. So I created this solution, published it to GitHub, and this is just a quick video on how to deploy that solution. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we've switched over here to the solution that I published on GitHub. And I do have step-by-step walkthroughs with screenshots on how to deploy this, but for those of you that prefer the video method, that's what we're doing here. So at the very bottom of the repository on the front page in the README, there is a deployment button. So I'm going to go ahead and click Deploy to Azure, but first I want to note one of the steps. So step number one is you'll need a GitHub personal access token. There's a link here to GitHub on how to do that, but you'll need to go create one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy to Azure. And as it is with any other ARM template, this will pop up all the parameters that are required by the template rather. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new resource group. I'm going to call this RG-GitHub stats. I'm going to leave this in West US. So object ID. This is something that you'll have to grab here while you're doing the deployment. This is the object ID of your Azure Active Directory user. So on the GitHub README page, step number 3 includes a command to run in a PowerShell Cloud Shell. So I'm going to go back to the Azure portal, open up a Cloud Shell, and it already set itself to PowerShell. If it doesn't, you can click this drop down right here and change it from Bash to PowerShell. And as soon as this opens, I'm going to paste in this command, and let's go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more space here. I'm going to paste in this command, and I'm going to change the username. So the username is going to be the username that you sign into Azure with. So for me here, it's Matt Hansen at hansencloud.com, and you can find the username that you're using up here in the right-hand corner. Run this, and it will give us back an object ID. All we need to do is copy this object ID and go put this into, now we can downsize this, go put this into the parameter box here. So the secret value, if you look over the informational button here, it says that this is the GitHub personal access token to be stored in Key Vault. I'm going to go ahead and grab my personal access token. This is stored as a secure string on input, so you'll just see dots here, and you will do the same for your account. So logic app name, I'm going to call this GitHub stats LAO1, and key vault name, whatever you want to call it there. And the clones and traffic URI. The only thing you'll have to change here is your repository, your username in GitHub, and the repository. Leave everything else there. This is the string that's leveraged for calling the GitHub API. Since this is a repository that belongs to me, I'm just going to go ahead and keep this, but you will change it. Do review and create. You'll validate the ARM template. Go ahead and submit the creation, and I'll let that run. It won't take very long. Pause the recording and come right back. All right, the deployment completed. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the resource group, see what it created. Looks like it created us the storage account that we will store all the traffic data inside of. The Logic app, which is the workflow management system and serverless compute that executes the calls to the GitHub API and then the storage into the storage account. Key Vault that stores your personal access token. You can go see that in here under secrets. There's the GitHub personal access token. So that's never stored in plain text. But to do the call from the Logic app to the Key Vault, there is something that we need to do as a manual step. We need to go into the API connection for the Key Vault. And you'll see right here the status is unauthenticated. That's something that we'll have to do manually real quick here. Go to edit API connection and we'll say authorize. That will pop up a prompt for authentication. You should already be signed in. And it says the authorization was successful. We got to save the changes. Let's go ahead and save those changes. Go back to overview and we see that it's now connected, which is exactly what we want. So we're going back to the resource group, and now we'll go into the Logic app itself. And you see that the first run failed, and that's because it tried to do that run when the connection to the Key Vault was unauthorized. So all we have to do here is run the trigger again, and we'll see that this succeeds. Everything is all green, which is exactly what we want. And to validate that the data was stored, we can go into the storage account, go into Storage Explorer. Under tables, there are two tables into which the statistics are stored. There's repo clones, which is clone data, and repo traffic, which is traffic data. By default, you only get 2 weeks worth of data stored in GitHub, but that Logic app, when it runs, will pull all that data, but the function that it uses to merge into the table storage will only write new data. So it runs every day and will grab all the data that has been generated since it ran last. So the last thing we need to do here, which you don't need to do, you now have the data in a storage account and you can use it for whatever you'd like. But I do have a PowerBI template, which is a very basic template, but there's a little pbit file here in the GitHub repo. You can download that, and when you open that, it will prompt you for a few parameters. The storage account name, where the GitHub statistics are being stored, as well as the access token, or the access key. So while that's loading up, I'm going to go back to my storage account in Azure, and I'm going to go to access keys right here. Access keys will give me my storage account name, which you can get on an overview and a few other pages as well, but I can grab it there. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. I don't need the full URL, just the name. And click on load, and then it'll ask me for the access key for that storage account. So I click on show keys here and grab this key. Now, PowerBI Desktop is a free software that you can use on your desktop. You're not sharing it with anybody, and it's just local development for visualization. So you can run this without any cost. And you can see that it loaded our information. So I just have a basic overview page here that gives us traffic statistics. So overall and unique traffic statistics, as well as the clone information. This is all stored in these table connections here. There is a little bit of transforms that are done as a part of the template. So if you're pulling in the data by yourself outside of the Power BI template, go and look at the transforms that it does. But that data is the same that you would see if you went to go look into the insights of your specific repository. You'll see your traffic data, and all that data will correlate to the data that has been pulled into your Power BI template. So that's it. Give it a shot. I hope you enjoy it. As always, I welcome pull requests and issues. I'd love to build this out further with any of your thoughts. So feel free to leave me a comment.